Hello everyone, welcome back to another live stream, and thank you so much for tuning in to another live stream. The Israelis are warning from the next 24 hours, just moments before the talks in Geneva begin in the Omani embassy between the Iranian delegation and the American delegation in indirect talks to try and reach a solution to what the United States is calling its attempt to prevent Iran from nuclear weapons, obtaining nuclear weapons. Now, everything has been all over the place. Trump would initially say that they got rid of their nuclear program altogether, although he knew from years ago that Iran doesn't have any nuclear missiles or nuclear weapons. The American intelligence told him that. And despite all of that, he allowed Benjamin Netanyahu and supported him in his attack against Iran. And also, he participated in an attack against Iran with him during the 12-day war. Now, there are certain moves that the United States is doing now that are an exact copy of what they have done before the 12-day war. And apart from all of the deployment that's happening, they recently moved the Fifth Fleet from Bahrain. This is exactly what they have done before the attack that took place against Iran in June 2025. In addition to that, the United States had more deployment of F-22s, which is usually used before a bigger attack comes to play. So it's in the early stages of the attack. So they're preparing all of this. In the meantime, Iranian sources are saying that these rounds are the final attempt. Iran wants to have a deal. Iran doesn't want more. Iran always was open to talks and negotiations with the United States, but it was the hostility coming from the United States and the Zionist pressure on the administration that prevented the previous deal that they had from continuing when Trump withdrew from it in 2018. And when Trump was talking to them, Benjamin Netanyahu decided to attack and drag Trump to another attack. And now we're talking about the United States going on an all-out attack against Iran. In the meantime, the Indian leader came to Israel, Narendra Modi, in what Netanyahu is calling a hexagon alliance now. You see, he likes to talk a lot, Netanyahu, without really elaborating who are the additional participants in this alliance. The only man we saw was Modi coming there, Netanyahu calling him brother, and they're preparing for this alliance that Netanyahu is talking about, that he said will be intended to target the radical Shia alliance and the radical Sunni alliance. Of course, what he's doing by now is deflecting. What Netanyahu wants is to have more partners with more countries, shifting away from this pariah child-killing entity, with pressure coming globally from people against their own governments complicit in this genocide and this barbarism against the Palestinian people, and also to show some sort of power coming from Israel, when really and truly they're viewed as a pariah state. No one likes them in their country, and everyone wishes that Iran would finish it once and for good, which might be the case, because Iran views Israel as an advanced base of the United States of America. They don't view it as a country. Now, Israel is doing certain things. Israel isn't just sitting there. They are doing certain things inside the country that indicate something big is about to happen. Recently, the municipality of Haifa demanded that synagogues be evacuated from public shelters. Some shelters inside the city and other parts of Israel too are used as synagogues. In the previous war, not only were some people facing discrimination to enter shelters, whether they were people of color or minorities. Many videos were being published of people being refused to enter, prevented from entering shelters, but some of them were using them as synagogues and not allowing anyone to go in. Now they said 24 hours to evacuate all of them. We don't have definite confirmation about a war, because of course they wouldn't want to say that, but this move itself is a significant move that they actually haven't done in the 12-day war, which means, well, they're preparing. They're preparing for the city to be attacked, and they are preparing for a huge attack coming from Iran this time, similar to the attacks that took place against the refineries, chemical and oil refineries in the northern city of Haifa, that caused a lot of damage inside of Israel. Netanyahu, the other day, said that we don't know what a day brings. He said that in Yom Kippur, the holiday, the Jewish holiday, they will be guaranteeing the eternity of the people of Israel. What did he mean by that? Well, similar statements came before Israel attacked Iran in 2025. It wasn't only them, of course. There were more warnings coming from the American side, warnings coming also from Chuck Schumer, who said that this is serious after Marco Rubio briefed what's called the Gang of Eight. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer slams Trump administration secrecy over potential Iran strikes, warning that secret operations lead to tragedy. He wanted more clarity about that, despite the fact that he's a Zionist, by the way. But that also indicates that the Americans have probably already taken the decision. There were certain reports coming from the United States that generals in the army, including the top general, were against this attack, but that was denied by Donald Trump himself, who later said that these claims were baseless. They're not true. The only thing that's true is that everyone is on Donald Trump's side and having an attack against Iran. Okay, what is Israel doing too? The deputy speaker of the Israeli Knesset didn't rule out the use of non-conventional weapons in what we understand to be nuclear weapons. Of course, Israel doesn't admit that it has nuclear weapons. But listen to this recent statement from the Netanyahu's Likud party member, who mentioned that Israel is willing to use non-conventional weapons. His name is Nissim Vaturi. Let's listen to what he had to say in a recent video that he had published following an interview. Let's have a look.
גם לנו יש עוד כלים שלא השתמשנו בהם. אף אחד לא רוצה לנסות אותנו, לא איראנים ולא אף אחד. גם לנו יש נשק שעדיין לא השתמשנו בו. אנחנו נשתמש בו אם אנחנו נרגיש מאוימים עד כדי איום קיומי. ישראל תשתמש גם בנשק שלא השתמשנו בו עד היום. כן, ואני לא רוצה להרחיב יותר מדי, ולא כדאי לאיראנים להתעסק עם ישראל. להם יש שטיחים פרסים, לנו יש את מפעל הטקסטיל. אני לא חושב שאחד עומד מול השני, ואם ישראל תשתמש בנשק הזה ביום הדין, אז שאף אחד לא יביא אותנו למצב של יום הדין. אף אחד שלא יביא את ישראל לסכנה כזאת, כי אז נשתמש בנשק.
So, in essence, we'll use nuclear weapons. We will use nuclear weapons against Iran if we feel like we are in an existential threat. Did they confirm that they are an existential threat anytime recently? They did. Of course they did. They said that they are an existential threat when they were attacked by the Palestinian resistance, when there was an operation against them. And at the time, there were calls from ministers in the Netanyahu government to land nuclear bombs on Gaza. They said it outright. It was a man called Amichai Eliyahu at the time, who was a member of the Jewish Power Party that is led by none other than Itamar Ben-Gvir, the Minister of National Security in Israel. So one of them said we'll use nukes against Gaza. Of course, he didn't think it through because, well, there were the genocide, child-killing murderers roaming around there at the time. So it would have killed them. Plus, any attack there, you wouldn't be able to do anything, and everything can come on the occupied territories. And in the meantime, Benjamin Netanyahu had a visitor. He had a visitor called Narendra Modi. He even wore the traditional Indian clothing, Netanyahu. Look how cute he looks next to Narendra Modi, you know. All multiculturalism at play all of a sudden from Netanyahu. Calling him a brother. A brother. We didn't hear Netanyahu saying brother to anyone apart from the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Modi was criticized by the Indian Congress. He had criticism internally from India about this visit. Of course, he doesn't care. He shares a lot of values with Israel and with Benjamin Netanyahu. And he visited Israel. Netanyahu was, of course, over the moon. Netanyahu was over the moon about the state visit coming from Modi. And brother and alliance and the hexagon alliance and spoke about an hexagon alliance. So far, I'm just seeing a two-pointed star. I didn't see a hexagon. Only Israel and India. Is there someone else? And if there is someone else, would you mind telling us who it is? With this hexagon alliance, with yet another satanic alliance? Tell us. Okay. He is showing that, look, Trump, if you're not going to attack Iran, we're going to move towards the east. There were several statements from Israeli officials in recent months that, listen, if the United States leaves us, although he's saying that it's the best relationship in the world, and some in Israel said that if the United States neglects Israel and leaves Israel, we will move to India. And the United States they know what happens to them when they neglect Israel. They are there because of us. Netanyahu even said there wouldn't be a Huckabee had it not been for Israel and the Jewish people. Israel and the Jewish people. There wouldn't have been a Huckabee. Now they're saying that they're going to go to India. Well, why are you going to India if the United States is your best ally? Are you worried about something? They're worried about the American people. They're worried about the people who hate the living daylight out of them. They can't stand them. You ask an average American, which country do you want to be attacked? They'll tell you, we need to attack Israel. Iran, the Americans are praising Khamenei. Iran, the Americans are waiting for the moment that Iran will land missiles on Tel Aviv. That's the sentiment. And that's what Netanyahu and Israel are petrified of. Americans changing their mind and waking up. And guess what? The Americans, many of them have already woken up, and many more are waking up. And there is no turning back. You can buy TikTok, you can buy CBS, manipulate, whatever you want to do, it's not going to work, dude. It isn't going to work. That's it. Okay. Is the United States sending more signals? So we've been talking about all of the deployment that's been happening for weeks upon weeks now, deployment after deployment. The main bases in the United States, in the United Kingdom, Ramstein in Germany, back and forth like a beehive, going back and forth. What are they doing? Well, they are preparing the movement of strategic assets. USS Gerald Ford is now almost close to occupied Palestine. There was a slight delay there because of the toilet issue. More Americans are saying that there were Marines there blocking the toilets deliberately to sabotage and attack because they don't want to die for a child-killing entity. They pledged allegiance to defend the United States of America. They're not defending the United States of America in this case. They're going to fight a war that's not theirs. And the president leading them to that war is the same president who people voted for because he proposed himself as a no war president, as the president who will finish all of the wars in the world. You know, Russia and China, Russia and Ukraine will end it in 24 hours. 24 hours? How many 24 hours have passed since? What happened? Gaza, he armed Netanyahu to land more weapons on children, and he bragged about it. You see the Epstein files, they hit really hard when they come up. You know what? If it's not for Trump maybe being recorded doing something, an act of pedophilia or abuse or whatever it is, it's him fearing he will spend the few remaining years of his life in prison. Probably. Because even if there are no recordings, for example, against him, and it's quite absurd, isn't it? How unbothered the people in charge in the United States about this pedophile ring led by Jeffrey Epstein, and no arrests have been made. No interrogations even. Nothing. But if they really want to implement and take action, take enforcement action against, one of the biggest pedophile rings known to man, let alone the child sacrifice element and cannibalism and what have you. How many people would be arrested if they were doing their job? So Trump is worried about that. He's worried about that prospect. And when Netanyahu presses the button, Donald Trump listens. And that's why he's going there. Although there are Americans, and clearly some Americans in the American army who are not happy with this. And listen, they're doing humanity a favor. These are brave people. If they are really either blocking the toilets or doing anything to stop this insanity, they will be doing a service for humanity. Why? Because, well, did you pledge allegiance to serve a dictator? The whole thing is illegal. Not following international law, not going to the Congress, not telling the Americans, only manipulating or trying to manipulate Americans to convince them to go into a war with Iran, and having Lindsey Graham crying about we need to take down the Ayatollah regime 24/7. The Ayatollah regime. But the Zayofullah regime, you're fine with the Zayofullah regime, aren't you? But the Americans know the score. And of course, many of them are in the American army. Listen, you'd have to be a really big imbecile not to understand what's going on. I mean, you need to live in, I don't know, Mars. If there are aliens, they probably know about the Palestinian case. If there's someone on Mars, on any other planet in the Milky Way, they will know that there's probably a Palestinian cause if they have the tech to reach us and what have you. So what do they not know? What's happening? How can you not know? It's all over the place. Despite the suppression and everything. And you're going against international law, you're going against American law, and you're serving a dictator in the form of Donald Trump. But of course, when they have the orders, the majority, or many of them, will be following orders. Although, listen, some of them on some of the US aircraft carriers, by the way, complained a lot, especially when they were in the Red Sea. How many times, how many aircraft carriers did they change in the Red Sea against Yemen? Against Ansarullah in Yemen? 4. 4? Yemen expelled 4 aircraft carriers. You better learn how to swim, or you better hope that you know how to swim really well for prolonged periods, because should you attack Iran, USS Abraham Lincoln is very likely to be at the bottom of the ocean. Iran has the weapons. Iran has everything that it takes to take USS Abraham Lincoln, USS Gerald R. Ford, and all of the other destroyers and accompanying warships to the bottom of the Persian Gulf And then they can make documentaries on National Geographic on how Iran took down all of these aircraft carriers that the United States regime was trying to bully the whole world with and terrorize the whole world with. But they've done something now that they haven't done in just less than a year. To be more specific, June 2025. What happened in June 2025? In June 2025, the United States moved the Fifth Fleet from the Bahrain base from its port. Why? Well, because they didn't want to be sitting ducks. I mean, chances are they're sitting ducks in the Persian Gulf anyway, and in the Arabian Sea, and in the Gulf of Aden, and in the Red Sea. But they want to make it more difficult. What did they do now? Well, there you have it. Here you go. Fifth Fleet flees base in pre-strike maneuver. Satellite imagery confirms that the US Navy central hub in the Middle East is empty, signaling that the option B military strike on Iran may be imminent. Yet another very, very telling move from the United States that something is about to happen very quickly. Why are they doing that? Let's go through the report slightly. In a chilling echo of the maneuvers that preceded the June 2025 war, the US Navy's Fifth Fleet has vanished from its home port. Satellite photos captured Tuesday by Planet Labs PBC and analyzed by the Associated Press reveal that the American vessels typically docked in Bahrain, the forward-deployed nerve center of the US naval power in the Middle East, are all out at sea. The piers, which usually host the bulk of the fleet's combat power in the Persian Gulf, appear completely deserted. When reached for comment, the Fifth Fleet referred all inquiries to US Central Command, which declined to provide details on the fleet's current location or objectives. Military analysts recognize the scattering as a classic protocol designed to deny an enemy a sitting duck target. By moving into the open waters of the Arabian Sea and the Indian Ocean, the ships become significantly harder to hit with ballistic missiles and drone swarms that Iran has characterized as their primary response to US pressure. This is yet another move coming from the United States administration that is proving that they are indeed preparing for something very big. They don't usually do that for no reason. Listen, they don't do all of that for no reason. You can't go and deploy so many forces, the biggest amount since the Second Gulf War, since the 2003 war, invasion of Iraq. It resembles a lot the Gulf War in the early 90s as well. For no reason. And what's clearly happening now is that they are using these talks, like we were talking about this in the previous video, to allow for further deployment, because what they're looking for is something much bigger than before. And there are arguments. Like, one argument would tell you, well, listen, they are actually trying to use this as leverage during the negotiations. Well, that's one hefty and expensive leverage. Plus, leverage for what exactly? To show military presence? You can do that with a fraction of your forces and a fraction of the cost. You don't just take your strategic assets from very strategic locations across the world and concentrate them in a specific area just to have leverage in negotiations. And yes, there is the whole argument of, are they capable to conduct a large-scale ground invasion, for example? Will they be successful with the attack? How long can they? We know all of that. Totally valid. But that doesn't necessarily prevent them, or wouldn't necessarily prevent them, from conducting an act of grand terrorism, because this is exactly what it is, grand terrorism by the biggest terrorist state in the world, the United States of America, led by its government, of course. And there's a big difference between the American establishment and the people, absolutely. Followed by the genocide state of Israel. For the sake of delusional, messianic, fanatical, radical religious beliefs, or hallucinations, to be more specific, of the Zionists, to expand the country. And now you have Mike Huckabee, the ambassador of the United States in Israel, saying that he doesn't mind if Israel takes over the whole of the Middle East. It wouldn't be a problem. Combine that with the pattern of Donald Trump threatening his own allies, having issues with NATO, with Greenland, with Canada, kidnapping Maduro. We had the change. Look at what's happening. He went to Venezuela, took control now. They stopped supplying oil to China. They're trying to apply pressure on Russia too, by seizing an oil tanker that Russia responded to, by the way. That's why they didn't have further aggressions. They didn't speak about it too much, because Russia doesn't like to make a big deal out of it. Lesson learned, that's it. Panama. What happened in Panama? The Panama authorities took out the Chinese management of its main ports, following a request from who? From Donald Trump. Didn't he threaten to invade Panama? He probably would have. But the government said, we'll take the Chinese out. Where are we going to? Well, Iran, the world's third largest oil reserve country, over 210 billion at least barrels of oil in Iran. 90% of its oil exports go to China. Again, you can choke China again. Isn't he always saying, China, 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 China? And he wants to do that with Iran too. Of course, let alone the Israeli element here, the Zionist element. Because when Iran, or assuming that a scenario like this happens, by the way, who's next? They're already talking. They're talking about Turkey, they're talking about Saudi Arabia, casually, you know. And you have Mike Huckabee giving them a blank check, no problem. You want to take them over, take them over. The Israeli opposition leader was saying that he also firmly believes that the biblical Israel is the Israel that he believes in. It's just in the right conditions, you know, right security conditions, right political conditions. In short, if it was up to them, they'll go and occupy the whole world. Because it was promised to them by Lord Mordor 7,560 years ago. And then if Elon Musk reaches Mars, they'll go and occupy it too, because that was promised to them 10,500 years ago, by someone else. By another character that they don't necessarily believe in, but they just want to take it as an excuse. So a lot is happening, and the next 24 hours are really going to be big game changers. If the United States continues with the same approach that it has with Iran, and this somehow all was just a show, and they really didn't intend to do anything, everything can end up nice to an extent, and temporarily, maybe not long term. Because they had a deal in place that the same man is negotiating now withdrew from. If it won't go well, then it's only war. And when we say only war, it's regional war. It is regional war because Iran already said it. Iran already said that this is not going to be the same response that we had in the 12-day war. It's going to be a regional war, and to the furthest locations that we can reach. Add that to the Chinese and Russian moves, and you could be in a situation without too much drama or anything, by the way, where there could be a declared world war within the next days. Because if they begin this attack, both Russia and China, they know they're going to go all out, because Iran told them we're going to go all out in our response. They're already taking measures to try and prevent it by showing the United States that they're willing to support Iran before such an attack and not wait for a certain attack. They already thwarted multiple attacks and acts of terror coming from the United States and Israel against Iran in recent periods, to show the United States that don't even go there. Because if you do, if China does that, then that's too risky for them. When the United States went to Afghanistan, they were in close proximity to China. That wasn't pleasant for China. But Afghanistan wasn't providing China with a lot of oil that it really needs for its economy, for its industry, for its military too. Iran is a different story. Russia as well, they rely heavily on Iranian support too. So the next 24 hours will be very crucial. Will there be a deal? Or will there be something that is completely opposite to a deal? Will there be an attack that both the United States and Israel have been preparing for, and that they will take against Iran? And these were the main things that I wanted to share with you in this live stream. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you to Glenn Huxley and Miss Texas G for your supers. In the meantime, I'll be with you with more videos and live streams in the next coming days, so stay tuned. Stay blessed, take care, and I will see you soon in the next. Peace, everyone. Salam.